Her fists banged against the tinted window, rain and tears blending on her face. "Please help me," she gasped. When the door unlocked, she didn't know she had just stepped into the car of the most feared man in the city. Rain fell like punishment. Each drop stung Lena's skin as she stumbled barefoot across the cracked asphalt behind the gas station, her breath coming in panicked bursts. Her hands trembled as she clutched the small hand of her 6-year-old son Noah, pulling him toward the back road that led nowhere, and that was the point. "Mommy, where are we going?" His small voice cracked like glass. "Somewhere safe," she whispered, though she had no idea where that was anymore. Behind them, tires screeched. A voice, slurred, furious, echoed down the alley. "Lena, you think you can run from me?" Her heart lurched. Her ex-boyfriend Vince wasn't just drunk, he was out for blood. She could smell the whiskey and gasoline even from here. The bruises on her wrist throbbed under the rain like burning fingerprints of memory. She ducked behind a dumpster, pulling Noah close. "Shush," she whispered, feeling his small chest heave against her. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to scream. In her pocket, her phone was dead, cracked from where Vince had thrown it days ago. There was no one left to call. Then, a sound. A low purr of an engine, different, deep, expensive. Headlights cut through the rain at the corner of the street. A black Mercedes, idling, tinted windows glistening with water. Lena's breath hitched. Something in her broke, panic or instinct, she didn't know which. But she knew one thing: stay here and she'd die. She whispered to Noah, "Sweetheart, when I say run, you run to that car, okay? Don't stop." He nodded, eyes wide with fear and trust. She counted down inside her head. 3, 2, 1. They ran. Rain blurred her vision, her bare feet slapping puddles. She heard Vince shout again, closer this time, his rage chasing her like a shadow. Lena reached the car, slammed her palms against the window. "Help me. Please help me. Can I hide in your car?" The man inside turned his head slowly. His face was carved in shadows, unreadable, but his eyes, cold, sharp, assessing, met hers through the rain-slicked glass. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the lock clicked open. Damien Voss sat in silence inside that same Mercedes, parked under a flickering streetlight. The city stretched before him like a kingdom built on fear. He wasn't dressed like a cliché mob boss. No gold chains, no bodyguards tonight. Just a tailored black suit and the smell of expensive cologne that couldn't mask the faint trace of gun oil. On the seat beside him lay a folded photograph, creased, nearly worn out. A young boy's face smiled up at him. His son. Gone 5 years now, taken by the same violence Damien had spent his life controlling. He sipped his coffee and stared at the photo. He was tired of his own legend, the king of the Voss syndicate, the man who made people vanish with a single call. Power, money, fear, it all meant nothing without someone to come home to. But solitude was safer. Caring was a liability. He leaned back, closing his eyes as the rain began to pour harder. He told his driver to wait. Then, a sudden noise. A desperate pounding on the window beside him. He opened his eyes to see a woman, drenched, trembling, clutching a child, pleading through the glass. Her voice cut through the storm. "Please help me." For a long moment, Damien didn't move. He'd seen plenty of setups in his life, ambushes, cons, distractions. But something about her eyes, terrified, raw, but protective, hit a nerve he thought was long dead. He saw his son's face flash before him. He saw his late wife's last words: "You can't protect everyone by becoming the monster." Something shifted. Against every instinct, he hit the lock. The door opened. The woman scrambled inside, pulling the child after her. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she slammed the door behind her, gasping for air. The car filled with the smell of rain, fear, and faint lavender shampoo. Damien turned to look at her. "You just made a dangerous mistake," he said quietly. Lena met his eyes, her lip trembling. "I already did that once," she whispered, glancing toward the road. "I'm just trying not to make another." For the first time in years, Damien didn't know what to say. Outside, Vince's truck turned the corner, headlights sweeping the street. Damien's hand instinctively slid to the pistol under his seat, though his gaze never left her. "Get down," he ordered. She obeyed instantly, pulling Noah onto the floor. The raw trust in her movement unnerved him. The truck passed. The sound faded. Inside the car, silence pressed thick between them. Damien finally spoke, voice low. "Who are you running from?" Lena hesitated, clutching her son tighter. "Someone who said he loved me." Something like recognition flickered in Damien's eyes, something he'd buried long ago. He exhaled, leaned back, and stared at the rain. "Then you came to the right car," he muttered. "If you were in Lena's place, terrified, soaked, clutching your child, would you trust a stranger if every instinct screamed not to? Comment below, would you have entered that car?" The rain had softened into a whisper, but Lena's heartbeat still thundered. She pressed Noah's head against her shoulder, her soaked shirt clinging to his small frame as he trembled. In the dim glow of the car's dashboard, she finally saw the man beside her clearly. His jaw was sharp, his gaze unreadable, his hand steady on the wheel. The kind of steadiness only men who'd seen too much could hold. He didn't speak for a long time. The silence felt like judgment. "Seatbelt," he finally said. Lena blinked, unsure if she'd heard him right. He repeated it, quietly but firmly. "Put on your seatbelt. Both of you." She obeyed without a word, her fingers fumbling. Noah's tiny hands helped her buckle him in, eyes darting nervously toward the man who had just saved them, or trapped them. Damien shifted the car into gear. The tires rolled over puddles, cutting through the empty streets like whispers of fate. Lena couldn't help but glance at him again. His profile was carved from restraint, no wasted movement, no emotion. His suit was immaculate, even with rain streaking across his collar. The gun under his jacket glinted briefly when he adjusted his sleeve. Her throat tightened. You're not a cop, are you?" He glanced at her, one brow lifting. "Do I look like one?" She swallowed. "No. You look like trouble." A faint smirk tugged at his mouth, there and gone. "That's not inaccurate." They drove in silence for a while, city lights flashing across the windshield like fleeting ghosts. Noah finally whispered, "Mommy, are we safe now?" Lena wanted to say yes. But her eyes found Damien's reflection in the rearview mirror, the hard edge, the faint scar near his temple, the quiet power radiating off him, and the words stuck in her throat. "I don't know," she whispered. Damien's hands tightened slightly on the wheel. He pulled the car into an underground garage, clean, sleek, lit with soft fluorescent light. As the engine died, the world fell into stillness again. Lena's heart pounded harder. "Why are we here?" Damien turned off the ignition and faced her fully for the first time. His eyes were dark, sharp, and yet tired. "Because whoever you're running from won't find you here." Her breath caught. "You don't even know me." He studied her face, the bruised lip, the fear in her eyes, the way she shielded her child even now. "I don't need to," he said. "I know what being hunted looks like." Lena looked down, emotion cracking through her exhaustion. "You don't understand what he's like." "Try me," Damien interrupted softly. That tone, low, steady, unnerved her more than shouting ever could. She hesitated, then whispered, "He hurts people. Especially when they stop loving him. I should have left months ago. I just didn't know where to go." Damien leaned back, expression unreadable. "And now you're in the car of a man people cross the street to avoid." Her breath hitched. "I heard rumors about you." He gave a dry, humorless chuckle. "Then you probably shouldn't stay." "I don't have a choice," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "If I go back out there, he'll kill me. My son deserves better than that." Something flickered in Damien's eyes then, brief but unmistakable. A memory. A ghost. He looked away, fingers drumming once against the steering wheel. Then, without a word, he stepped out of the car. Lena froze. She wanted to run, but Noah clutched her arm, whispering, "Mommy, wait." Damien walked to the trunk, retrieved a black umbrella, and opened her door. The gesture was unexpectedly human. "Come on," he said quietly. Lena hesitated, staring at the shadowed elevator beyond the garage. "Where are you taking us?" "My place." Her eyes widened. "What?" "No, I can't." "Do you have another option?" She didn't. Damien's tone softened by a fraction. "It's safe. No one gets in without my say." She bit her lip, then slowly took Noah's hand and stepped out. The rain had stopped completely, leaving only the echo of distant thunder. The elevator doors opened. Polished steel, security cameras, everything screamed danger disguised as luxury. As they ascended, Damien stood still, his reflection beside hers in the mirrored wall. Their eyes met briefly. She saw a storm there, a man fighting something invisible. When the doors opened, she was met with the unexpected, not marble floors and gold, but warmth. A modern penthouse filled with soft light, books, and a single piano. Lena blinked, surprised. This doesn't look like a killer's place. Damien exhaled softly. That's because this is where I pretend to be someone else. For the first time since the night began, a faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Then maybe tonight we both pretend, she whispered. He glanced at her. Maybe. Noah yawned, leaning against Lena's leg. Damien noticed the child's exhaustion, his thin jacket soaked through. He disappeared into another room for a moment and returned with a blanket, navy blue, expensive. Here, he said, handing it to her. Lena hesitated again, then took it. Their fingers brushed, and for the briefest instant, warmth sparked through the chill of the night. It was fleeting, but it was real. That night, when Damien finally retreated to his office, he found himself staring again at the photo of his lost son. Something inside him whispered, you could still protect someone. And for the first time in years, the silence of his penthouse didn't feel like peace, it felt like the beginning of something dangerous, and alive. Can two broken people truly trust each other when both carry danger inside them? Comment below, would you have followed him into that elevator, or run the other way? Morning sunlight leaked through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Damien's penthouse, cutting golden streaks across the hardwood floors. For a long moment, Lena didn't know where she was. She blinked at the soft couch beneath her, the faint scent of leather and coffee in the air. Then she saw Noah asleep, curled beneath the navy blue blanket, his little chest rising and falling peacefully. For the first time in months, he wasn't waking to shouting. Lena's eyes softened, and then hardened again. Because safety always came with a cost. She rose quietly and began pacing the living room. Every corner of the place screamed wealth, paintings, marble, silence. The kind of silence that made her feel she didn't belong. Damien's voice startled her from behind. You're awake. She turned, finding him standing near the kitchen island, sleeves rolled up, coffee mug in hand. His eyes, gray and calm, watched her like he was trying to read her thoughts. Where are my shoes? She asked, trying to sound composed. Drying by the heater, he said simply. She folded her arms. You didn't have to do that. I know. Something in his tone, flat but considerate, unnerved her. He was impossible to read, and that terrified her more than Vince ever had. He nodded toward the coffee pot. There's food. Help yourself. I'm not hungry. He arched his brow. You should be. You look like you haven't eaten in days. Her jaw tightened. You don't get to judge me. I'm not. Yes, you are. He set his mug down, slow and deliberate. You're shaking. That's not defiance, it's exhaustion. You don't have to prove anything here. That broke something in her. She turned away, blinking hard. You don't know what it's like to be trapped. To have someone tell you every day you're worthless until you start to believe it. Damien's jaw tightened. He did know. But he didn't say that. He never talked about the nights he'd stood over his own reflection, disgusted by the monster he'd become. Instead, he just said quietly, You're not there anymore. Lena swallowed. A place doesn't fix a person. No, he said, voice low, but sometimes a person can. Their eyes met then, brief, electric, dangerous. And both looked away at once. Later that day, the storm outside returned, dark clouds swallowing the skyline. Lena stood by the window while Damien sat at his desk across the room, typing on his laptop. The silence between them wasn't comfortable, it buzzed with unsaid things. Finally, Lena spoke. You run some kind of business, right? His fingers paused on the keys. Something like that. What kind of business needs armed men outside? He didn't answer. She turned to face him. I'm not stupid. I've seen your name on the news. People are scared of you. Damien leaned back, closing the laptop. His expression stayed calm, but his voice chilled. And you should be too. Lena's pulse spiked. Why did you help me then? Out of pity. He stood, his height suddenly imposing. Because I saw someone about to die. Don't act like a hero, she shot back. You're not. He moved closer, stopping a few feet away. His voice dropped to a low rumble. You're right. I'm not a hero. But I'm not your enemy either. Something in the air shifted, charged, intimate. She wanted to scream at him, to thank him, to run. But instead she whispered, "You scare me." He stared at her for a long, aching second. Good. Fear keeps you alive. Her eyes burned. I've had enough of fear. The words hung there between them, trembling. That night, Damien called one of his men. Find out who she's running from, he ordered. Discreetly. If he's looking for her, I want to know. When he hung up, he stood at the window, staring down at the city lights. Rain smeared the glass, his reflection fractured. He could still hear Lena's voice. You scare me. He hated that it mattered. He had spent years building walls of silence and steel. He'd buried every trace of softness the night his son was taken. Now this woman and her child were inside his home, and the walls were starting to crack. In the living room, Lena sat awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Noah slept peacefully beside her. She should have been relieved, but her mind raced. Who was this man, really? And why did the sound of his voice make her feel both safe and exposed? She told herself it was temporary, just until she figured out where to go next. But deep down, she knew she had nowhere else. Her eyes fell on a photograph resting on the piano, Damien with a little boy. Both smiling. The frame was cracked. She touched it gently, whispering, You lost someone too, didn't you? Behind her, Damien's voice answered quietly, yes. She spun around, startled. He was standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable but not angry. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I shouldn't have. It's fine, he interrupted. Then softer, he was about your son's age. Silence stretched. I shouldn't be here, she said finally. You've done enough. I'll leave tomorrow. Damien's eyes darkened, but his voice stayed calm. If you walk out that door now, he'll find you by morning. Lena looked down. I can't keep dragging you into my mess. He took a slow breath. Maybe I want to be dragged. That stunned her. For a second, words failed. But then, like always, fear won. She shook her head, gathering the blanket tighter around herself. You don't even know me. I don't have to, he said. I just know I can't watch another kid lose their mother. The words hit like a blow. Lena turned away, blinking back tears she refused to let him see. You can't save everyone, Damien. I'm starting with you, he said quietly. Outside, thunder rolled again, low and distant, like the growl of something coming closer. Inside the penthouse, two broken hearts hid behind pride, each pretending they weren't already bound by something far deeper than fear. When someone tries to protect you but their world could destroy you, do you stay or run? Comment below. Would you have trusted Damien after hearing his truth? The storm raged harder that night. Lightning split the sky over the city, thunder echoing through Damien's penthouse like a warning. Lena sat on the couch, blanket wrapped tight around her shoulders, trying to calm her breathing. Noah had finally fallen asleep in the guest room, his little body limp from exhaustion. She should have been relieved. But every rumble of thunder made her flinch. Old memories didn't die easily. She jumped when a sudden knock echoed through the apartment. Damien appeared from the hallway instantly, one hand sliding beneath his jacket. Stay here, he murmured. Her heart hammered as he opened the door a crack. A tall man in a leather coat stood in the corridor, one of Damien's guards, soaked from the rain. Boss, we have a problem, he said. Someone's been asking questions around the block. About a woman and a kid. Lena's breath hitched. Damien's expression darkened. Vince. The guard nodded grimly. Word is, he's offering money to anyone who's seen them. Says the woman's fiancé. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. He found out I'm alive. Damien turned to her, his voice low but controlled. You're not leaving this building. Her instinct flared. You can't keep me locked up. He stepped closer, eyes sharp. I'm keeping you alive. She wanted to argue, but his voice held something she recognized, fear disguised as command. The kind of fear only a man who had already lost too much could feel. He turned back to the guard. Double the security downstairs. Nobody gets through that gate without my word. Yes, sir. When the door closed again, Damien stood there, shoulders rigid, jaw clenched. The room felt heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Lena whispered, "Why are you doing this for me?" He looked at her, something raw flickering behind his calm. Because I couldn't save the last one. She didn't know what he meant. But his voice cracked ever so slightly, and for the first time, she saw the man beneath the legend. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Lena gasped. Noah. He's fine, Damien said, already lighting a candle from the table. The glow painted his face in soft gold and shadow. It's just the storm. The backup generator will kick in soon. But minutes passed, and the storm only worsened. Rain pounded the windows like fists. The city below dimmed into a blur of darkness. The world had shrunk to the quiet space between them. Lena's voice trembled. I hate storms. Damien glanced at her. Why? She hesitated. Because he used to break things when it thundered. Said the noise reminded him of me yelling. A muscle in Damien's jaw ticked. He hurt you often? She nodded. Until I stopped screaming. The silence that followed was thick and electric. Damien's hand tightened around the candle holder. He set it down carefully before he broke something. Then, in a quieter voice, he said, "He's not touching you again." Lena wanted to believe that. But belief was a luxury she'd lost. Still, when the lightning flashed, she found herself moving closer, not because she wanted to, but because she needed to. Damien noticed. His eyes softened. You can sit here if you want, he said, motioning to the couch beside him. She hesitated, then sat. The candle flickered between them. The storm howled outside. Inside, only their breathing filled the space. You don't talk much, she whispered finally. I talk when there's something worth saying. She smiled faintly. Must be nice. I used to talk too much. He didn't like that either. Then you were talking to the wrong man. Her eyes lifted to meet his. His voice had gone low, rough, like gravel and warmth all at once. Why do you care, Damien? She asked softly. You don't even know if I'm telling the truth. He leaned back, watching the candlelight dance across her face. Because you're sitting in my home shaking, and liars don't tremble like that. The honesty in his tone broke something inside her. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. He didn't reach to wipe it away. He just said quietly, "You're safe here." And for the first time, she believed him. Hours later, the generator still hadn't come on. Damien lit another candle. He found Noah's small figure wandering out of the bedroom, clutching a stuffed bear. Mommy. Noah mumbled sleepily. Lena opened her arms, pulling him close. Damien crouched beside them, his large frame somehow gentle in the dim light. Noah blinked at him. Are you a bad guy? Lena froze. Damien met the boy's gaze. Sometimes, he said honestly. But not tonight. Noah nodded, satisfied, and leaned against his mother. You have sad eyes, he said softly, before falling back asleep. Lena and Damien locked eyes over the child's head. Something deep, fragile, unspoken passed between them. He stood slowly. The guest room's yours tonight. Door locks from the inside. She nodded, voice barely a whisper. Thank you. As she carried Noah toward the room, she turned back once. Damien was still standing there, candle in hand, watching the storm. And though he didn't move or speak, Lena could swear she felt it. His fear, his guilt, his silent promise. They were both prisoners tonight, of pasts they couldn't escape, and feelings neither dared to name. When someone's darkness makes you feel safe instead of afraid, is that love or danger disguised as comfort? Comment below, would you trust the protection of a man the world calls a monster? Morning broke through thin clouds, pale and cold. The storm had left the city washed clean but heavy with silence. Lena woke before Noah did. She stood at the window of the guest room, watching droplets slide down the glass like seconds she couldn't take back. Her reflection looked foreign. Hollow eyes, a fading bruise, a woman rebuilt out of fear. Behind her, the door opened softly. Damien leaned against the frame, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "I thought you might need this," he said. She hesitated, then took it. Their fingers brushed again, one of those tiny electric accidents that made her heart stutter. "Thank you." He nodded. "How's the kid?" "Still sleeping. He always sleeps better when he feels safe." A flicker passed over Damien's face, something between guilt and longing. He turned to the window beside her. "Kids should never have to worry about safety." Lena studied him. "You talk like someone who lost one." He didn't answer right away. The silence stretched. Then softly, "I had a son. His name was Ethan." She waited. "He was 6, Damien said finally. Loved pianos, dinosaurs, and pretending not to be scared of thunder." His voice cracked on that last word. "My wife wanted out of my world. I told her she could leave, but not with him. She left anyway." The car went off the bridge 2 nights later. They said it was an accident. "I still don't know if I believe that." Lena's breath caught. "Damien." He swallowed, looking down at his hands. "So when I saw you running in the rain, holding your boy like he was the only thing that mattered, he stopped, jaw tightening. "It wasn't logical. It was a memory." Lena felt tears sting her eyes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked." "I told you because you deserve to know what kind of man you're hiding with," he said quietly. "I've done terrible things. The kind that can't be washed off." She shook her head. "You're still human." He almost smiled, bitter and disbelieving. "You'd be surprised how many disagree." Later, while Damien took a call in the other room, Lena wandered through the penthouse. She traced her fingers across the piano keys, silent, dusty. A single sheet of music lay open, Claire de Lune. Noah's small voice startled her. "Mommy, can I play?" She smiled faintly. "Not right now, honey. It might bother Mr. Voss." "It won't," Damien said from behind them. His tone softened. "Go ahead." Noah climbed onto the bench and tapped a few uneven notes. The sound was clumsy but pure. Damien stood still, eyes distant. Lena watched him. That was his song, wasn't it? He nodded once. He used to play it every morning before school. "Do you ever go see the place where it happened?" "Once," he said. "It nearly killed me. I told myself I'd never feel that kind of pain again." She turned toward him. "And now?" He met her gaze. "Now you're in my home, and I'm remembering what it's like to care if someone breathes." The confession hung in the air like a spark. Lena's heart raced. She wanted to step closer, to thank him, to run. She didn't know which. That afternoon, Damien's phone buzzed. He frowned, reading the message. The boyfriend, Vince Marlowe. Known to police. Violent, connected to loan sharks. "He's asking about you." Damien's eyes darkened. "So he's not just some drunk?" "No," Lena said quietly. "He's worse. He knows people who can find anyone." Damien looked up. "Then I'll make sure he can't." Fear flared in her eyes. "Don't hurt him." He raised a brow. "After what he's done." "I don't want more blood on my hands," she said, voice trembling. "I just want him gone." Damien studied her, this woman who had been broken and still somehow cared about mercy. It disarmed him. "You have no idea how rare that is," he said softly. She looked away. "Pain doesn't have to turn us cruel." That line hit him deeper than any bullet ever had. That night, they sat on the couch, the lights dim. Noah slept again. The city glowed below like embers. Lena whispered, "When did you stop believing people could change?" Damien gave a faint, rueful smile. "The night I realized I couldn't." "You already have," she said simply. He turned to her, searching her face. "Why are you not afraid of me anymore?" "I am," she admitted. "Just not in the way I used to be." "What way is that?" "The kind where I think fear means danger. Now it just means I could get hurt, if you ever left." The air between them thickened. He wanted to reach out, to touch her face, to promise something he wasn't sure he could keep. But instead he whispered, "Then I'll make sure I don't." Lena smiled faintly. "You can't protect me forever." "Maybe not," he said, "but I can try tonight." As the clock ticked toward midnight, the storm outside finally broke again, gentler this time, more of a lullaby than a threat. And for the first time in years, Damien played the piano. Soft notes of Clair de Lune floated through the room. Lena stood in the doorway, tears glistening, listening to a man who had forgotten how to feel to remind himself that he could. When someone shares the ugliest parts of their past with you, do you walk away or stay and help them heal? Comment below, would you have trusted Damien after hearing his story? Morning sunlight poured through the glass walls of the penthouse, soft and golden, painting long shadows across the room. The city below buzzed with life again, but inside, there was an almost sacred stillness. Lena stood at the stove in one of Damien's oversized shirts. She'd found it folded neatly on the chair that morning, left without a word. It hung loose on her, smelling faintly of cedar and something darker she couldn't name. Noah sat at the kitchen island, swinging his feet while munching on toast. "Mommy, is Mr. Damien going to eat with us?" he asked with a mouth full of crumbs. "I don't think men like him eat breakfast," she teased softly. A low voice behind her answered, "Men like me drink coffee for breakfast." She turned, startled. Damien stood in the doorway, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie undone, looking less like a kingpin and more like a man. There was a faint smile on his lips, the kind of smile that looked like it had been waiting years to be used again. "I can make you eggs too," Lena said, half joking, half testing. "I don't remember the last time someone offered to cook for me," he said. "Then maybe that's the problem," she replied, flipping the pan. Noah giggled. "You sound like my teacher." Damien sat at the counter watching them, the domestic scene foreign and oddly grounding. "Your teacher must be very brave," he said dryly. "She's nice. She has a cat named Mr. Pickles." Lena chuckled, handing Noah another slice of toast. "He tells everyone about that cat." "Maybe you should get him one," Damien said. "Can't," Lena replied. "Every apartment I can afford doesn't allow pets." Something in Damien's expression shifted. He didn't say it, but the thought hit him like a punch. She shouldn't have to think in terms of what she can afford. Later, Lena found herself standing near the piano again. Her fingers hovered over the keys, hesitant. "You can play," Damien said from the doorway. She turned, smiling faintly. "Noah told me you played last night. I didn't want to intrude." "It was habit," he said, almost embarrassed. "Then it's a good habit," she said, pressing one note, soft, sweet, uncertain. He came closer, the air between them shifting. "Here," he said, sitting beside her. "This one goes after that." Their hands touched on the same key, and something electric passed through the contact. Lena looked up, heart pounding, their faces only inches apart. Damien froze. Then slowly, almost painfully, he smiled, a real one this time, small but unguarded. "See? You remember," she whispered. He looked down at their hands. "Some things don't fade." The song continued, clumsy but beautiful. They laughed when Noah tried to join in, pounding random notes and calling himself the maestro. For a few minutes, the penthouse wasn't a fortress or a hideout, it was a home. That evening, Damien drove them to the edge of the city. The sky was painted orange and pink, clouds glowing like embers. Lena rolled down the window, letting the wind tangle her hair. Noah leaned against her shoulder, half asleep in the back seat. "This isn't the route to the grocery store," Lena said, smiling. Damien glanced at her. "No. I thought you both could use some air." He parked near a quiet overlook that faced the bay. The city lights shimmered in the distance. "It's beautiful," she said softly. He nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. "When I was a kid, I used to come here before things got complicated. My father built half this city. Said the view reminded him why power mattered." Lena turned toward him. "And what does it remind you of?" He hesitated. "How small power actually is." Their eyes met, and for once, there was no fear, no pretense. Just understanding. Lena exhaled slowly. "I used to think love was supposed to hurt. That if it didn't, it wasn't real." Damien's voice was quiet. "And now?" She smiled faintly. Now I think maybe love feels like breathing again. He didn't answer, but the way he looked at her said everything. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But when they returned home that night, the air between them was heavy with something fragile and alive. Noah had fallen asleep in the car, so Damien carried him up to the guest room. Lena followed quietly, watching as this man, this feared, untouchable man, tucked the blanket around her son's small shoulders with almost reverent care. She whispered, "You'd make a good father." He froze. "I tried once." Her voice softened. "You still are." Their eyes met in the half-darkness. For a heartbeat, everything else disappeared, the danger, the past, the pain. He stepped closer. She didn't move away. His hand hovered near her face, not touching, just close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. "Lena," he said quietly, "if I get too close, you'll forget why you were running." She smiled sadly. "Maybe I already have." And then she turned, walking back toward her room, leaving him standing there in the quiet hall, torn between fear and something that felt a lot like hope. Later, when the lights were out and silence filled the penthouse again, Damien sat by the window, phone in hand. A text flashed from his guard. "The boyfriend's been seen near the river docks. He's asking about you. Should we handle it?" Damien typed only one word back. "Wait." He wasn't ready for violence. Not yet. Because for the first time in years, he had something to lose that wasn't just money or power. He had them. When safety begins to feel like love, how do you know if it's real, or just relief? Comment below, is it possible to fall for someone who saved your life, or is that just gratitude in disguise? The rain had returned, softer this time, but relentless. It tapped against the glass walls of the penthouse like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. Lena stood by the window, staring out at the city below. Her heart was restless. For the past few days, Damien had been distant again, phone calls behind closed doors, long silences, that cold shadow creeping back into his eyes. Something was changing. She could feel it. He entered the room quietly, wearing that same black suit, the armor he always put on when he was about to face something dark. "You're leaving again?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. He paused, adjusting his cufflinks. "Just business." "You've been saying that a lot lately." He looked at her then, expression unreadable. "That's what my life is, Lena. Business." She stepped closer. "You mean violence." The words hit hard. He didn't deny it. "I told you before," he said slowly, "the man you think I am doesn't exist outside these walls." Lena's throat tightened. "Then who are you here?" There was a silence so heavy it felt alive. Finally, he said, "A mistake waiting to happen." Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. "You saved me. You saved my son. That wasn't a mistake." He looked away, jaw clenched. "You don't understand. Vince is still out there. And now that he's found a connection to me, you're in more danger than ever. People are talking. My enemies think you matter to me. That makes you a target." Lena's stomach dropped. "Then let me leave." No, his voice was sharp, commanding. "Why not?" "Because if you go, he'll find you before the sun sets. I'm keeping you alive." Her voice broke. "You can't keep me caged just because you're scared to lose something again." That landed like a blow. He turned his back to her, gripping the edge of the table. The veins in his hand stood out, trembling. "You think this is about me," he said, voice low and rough. "It's about keeping a promise I already failed once." Lena stepped closer. "You can't rewrite the past by controlling the present." He turned sharply, eyes flashing. "And you can't survive the future pretending the world isn't cruel." The room went silent. Only the rain answered. Lena took a step back, her voice barely a whisper. "You're starting to sound like him." Damien froze. The accusation sliced through the air, brutal and raw. She saw the pain flicker in his eyes instantly, but it was too late. The words were out, and they could never be taken back. He exhaled slowly, that mask of cold detachment sliding back over his face like armor reforged. "Maybe you're right," he said quietly. "Maybe I am what the world says I am." He turned toward the door. "Damien." But he was already gone. Hours passed. Lena sat curled on the couch, staring at the flickering lights of the city. Noah slept, unaware of the storm brewing inside his mother's chest. She couldn't stop hearing her own words echoing back at her. You're starting to sound like him. Damien wasn't Vince. He never had been. He'd yelled once, not to control her, but to protect her. And she'd stabbed him with the cruelest weapon she could find, comparison. Tears stung her eyes. Then suddenly, a crash outside the building. A car. Tires squealing. Shouts. Lena rushed to the window, and froze. Down on the street, 2 black SUVs idled near the gate. Men in dark coats. Guns. Her blood turned to ice. Mommy. Noah's sleepy voice came from behind her. She turned quickly. Sweetheart, go back to your room. Now. Why? What's wrong? Do as I say, baby. Please. Her hands shook as she locked the door. Then she grabbed Damien's phone from the table. He'd left it behind. 1 missed call. Then another. Then a message flashing on the screen. They know. Get her out. Now. Before she could react, the elevator dinged. Her heart stopped. Footsteps. Heavy. Purposeful. Lena pressed Noah against her, whispering, hide, hide, hide. She pushed him into the storage closet and closed it just as the front door burst open. A man's voice, slurred, cruelly familiar, filled the penthouse. Lena. Baby, you think you can hide from me forever. Vince. Her world tilted. He had found them. She ducked behind the kitchen island, heart hammering, as his boots thudded across the floor. You and your little bastard made me look like a fool, he snarled. And this rich gangster you've been shacking up with, where's he now? Ha. Lena clenched her fists. She was shaking, but not from fear this time, from fury. Then came the sound of another elevator arriving. Vince turned toward it just as the doors slid open. Damien stepped out, gun drawn, eyes like storm clouds. Let him go, Lena whispered to herself, barely breathing. But Damien didn't speak. He moved like a shadow, silent, deadly. Vince laughed, raising his own gun. Oh, look who it is. The big bad wolf. The sound of a shot split the air. Lena screamed. The world froze, then chaos erupted. Damien lunged, tackling Vince to the floor. The gun slid across the tile. They fought, fists, fury, years of violence colliding in one brutal blur. Lena grabbed Noah, holding him close as the men crashed into furniture, shattering glass and silence alike. Then, another gunshot. And everything stopped. For a moment, there was no sound except Lena's ragged breathing. Vince lay on the floor, clutching his arm, blood pooling beneath him. Damien stood over him, chest heaving, face streaked with sweat. His gun hung limp at his side. He turned to Lena. Their eyes met. I told you, he said quietly, voice breaking, I'd keep you safe. Tears streamed down her face. At what cost? But before either could answer, sirens wailed in the distance. Damien looked down at Vince, then at her. You need to take Noah and go. Now. What about you? He hesitated. There are consequences for this world colliding with yours. Damien. He stepped closer, brushed a trembling hand against her face, and whispered, You made me remember I still had a heart. Don't let anyone take that from you. Then he turned, disappearing down the hallway as flashing blue lights painted the windows. Lena clutched Noah to her chest and sank to the floor, sobbing quietly as the storm outside broke open again, washing the world in rain and regret. When someone breaks the world to protect you, do you see a savior or a sinner? Comment below, would you have stayed, or run? The night after the gunfire felt endless. Rain still whispered against the windows of the penthouse, washing away blood, noise, and the illusion of safety. Lena sat on the floor beside Noah's bed, her body trembling from exhaustion she couldn't name. The boy slept soundly, small fingers curled around the blanket Damien had given him. She hadn't stopped shaking since the sirens faded. Every sound replayed in her mind. The gunshots, Damien's voice, the look in his eyes when he said goodbye. You made me remember I still had a heart. She pressed her face into her hands. Then why did you leave me? She whispered. Across the city, Damien sat alone in an abandoned warehouse on the docks, rain dripping through broken glass above him. His shirt was torn, blood seeping through a shallow wound on his arm, but he didn't care. His gun lay on the floor beside him, empty. He stared at the river beyond the cracked windows, black and endless. He'd called in a favor, the kind that cost more than money. Vince had been taken by the police, but the story wouldn't end there. Men like Vince never worked alone, and now the city's underworld buzzed with rumors. The Voss syndicate leader had gone soft. He'd broken his own rule. He'd cared. And caring made him weak. Lena woke before dawn. The city was eerily quiet. The storm finally passed. She made coffee just to have something to do with her hands. Every movement felt hollow, boiling water, pouring, breathing. Damien's phone sat on the counter where he'd left it. A small red light blinked. She hesitated, then picked it up. One unread message, the docs. He's hurt. Her heart stopped. By the time she reached the pier, dawn had barely touched the water. Mist hung low over the river, turning everything gray and ghostly. She spotted him sitting on a rusted bench at the edge of the dock, shoulders slumped, a cigarette burning between his fingers. For a moment she just watched him, the feared man, the protector, the one she'd compared to her abuser, sitting like a boy who'd lost the world. Then she walked toward him. He didn't look up. You shouldn't be here. Her voice was quiet but steady. You shouldn't be alone. He gave a bitter half-laugh. That's what I'm best at. She stepped closer. You think disappearing makes this better? I think staying makes it worse. He finally turned, eyes hollow. If I stay, they'll come for you again. They'll use you to get to me. You and the kid, you'll never stop running. Lena's chest tightened. And you think running from me will stop them? He looked away. It's the only way I know how to keep people alive. Her voice broke. You're not saving me this time, Damien. You're punishing yourself. That hit him. His hand trembled as he took a drag of the cigarette, exhaling slowly, trying to hold on to his calm. You called me him, he said finally, voice rough. You said I was starting to sound like Vince. Her throat closed. I know. I was wrong. You weren't, he said softly. You saw something I didn't want to admit. That I could become the thing I hate most. You're not him, she whispered. He looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time his eyes weren't cold. They were wounded. Human. I wanted to believe that, he said, until I saw what I did to you tonight. I made you afraid again. You made me safe, she said, stepping closer. And maybe that's the part that scares you. The silence stretched, heavy with everything they hadn't said. Finally, Damien stood, tossing the cigarette into the river. The smoke curled and vanished. You have a choice now, Lena. You and Noah can start over. New names, new city. I'll make sure you're protected. She stared at him, tears spilling freely now. You talk like you're already gone. He gave a small, sad smile. Maybe I am. Don't do this, she whispered. He stepped closer, so close she could feel the heat radiating off him, smell the rain and smoke clinging to his skin. You deserve a life that isn't built on fear. And what about you? He didn't answer. She reached up and touched his face, fingers brushing the faint scar near his temple. You keep trying to be the monster who saves people from other monsters. But you don't have to fight alone anymore. His jaw trembled. You make it sound easy. It's not, she said. It's just right. For a heartbeat, he let himself lean into her touch, eyes closing, breath uneven. Then he stepped back. If I stay, you'll never be free. If you leave, I'll never be whole, she whispered. Their eyes locked, two souls at war with themselves, both breaking, both wanting to be brave. He turned toward the river again, the wind whipping through his hair. Go home, Lena. She shook her head. Not without you. Please, he said, voice cracking. Don't make me choose between who I was and who I want to be. Her tears fell harder. Then stop running and be him. That silence again, heavy, final, infinite. He turned, stepped forward, and kissed her. It wasn't soft. It was raw, desperate, trembling, the kiss of two people who knew the world might not give them another. When they broke apart, Damien whispered, You have no idea what you've done to me. Lena smiled through tears. I think I do. The first light of morning spilled across the water, turning it gold. Damien looked toward it, breathing deeply. If I walk away now, it's to end this war once and for all. I'll come back when it's done. Lena shook her head. And if you don't? He smiled sadly. Then at least you'll know I died trying to be someone worth your trust. She reached for his hand, held it tight. You already are. He kissed her forehead, gentle, final, then turned toward the waiting car. She stood there long after the engine faded, the wind cold against her skin. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. She'd made her choice, to believe in the man the world feared. And Damien had made his, to fight for the life he didn't think he deserved. If the person you love walked into danger to protect you, would you hold them back, or let them go and believe they'll find their way back? Comment below, would you have stopped Damien, or trusted his promise? 3 weeks later. The city had changed. The headlines spoke of arrests, betrayals, and the sudden fall of the Voss syndicate. Whispers said Damien Voss was dead. Others said he'd vanished, like smoke, like legend. Lena tried not to read the papers anymore. She'd moved with Noah into a small apartment overlooking the park, the kind of place with creaky floors and sunlight that actually felt warm. No guards. No locked gates. Just peace. But peace was a strange thing after so much noise. Every night, she still heard echoes, the sound of rain, gunfire, his voice. You made me remember I still had a heart. And every morning, she still caught herself looking at the door, expecting him to walk through it. He never did. It was late afternoon when she found Noah sitting on the rug, building towers with his toy blocks. Mommy, he said suddenly, do you think Mr. Damien's watching us from the sky? Her throat tightened. Why would you say that? He said he'd keep us safe. Maybe that's what angels do. Lena knelt down, pressing a kiss to his hair. Maybe he's closer than you think, she whispered. Noah smiled, content. Children always believed in hope. Adults had to fight for it. That night, a soft knock echoed at the door. Lena froze. It was raining again, soft, steady. The same rhythm as the night everything began. She hesitated, heart thundering. No one ever came this late. When she finally opened the door, she didn't breathe. Damien stood there, soaked to the bone, a bruise on his cheek but alive. Hey, he said softly, voice hoarse. Can I come in? For a second, she couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Then she threw herself into his arms. He caught her, holding her tight against his chest as if letting go would undo everything he'd fought for. She buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing quietly. I thought you were gone. I almost was, he murmured. But I promised you I'd come back. She pulled back just enough to see his face. How? After the docks, I made a deal. Took down everyone who wanted you dead. Gave the police what they needed, gave the rest what they feared. He managed a tired smile. It's over now. Lena's tears spilled freely. You could have died. I almost did, he said. But then I kept thinking about a little boy who asked if I was a bad guy. And the woman who made me want to answer no. She laughed through her tears. You always did talk too little until it mattered. He brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. And you always underestimate how strong you are. Their eyes met, that same unspoken current running between them. You said you'd keep me safe, she whispered. I did, he said softly. But you kept me alive. Noah appeared at the end of the hallway, rubbing his eyes. Mommy? Whose? He stopped mid-sentence, blinking. Damien knelt, smiling. Hey, Maestro. Noah gasped. You're back. He ran forward, arms wide, and Damien caught him, lifting him easily, the way fathers do without realizing how natural it feels. Lena watched them, heartbreaking and healing all at once. Did you fight the bad guys? Noah asked. Damien smiled faintly. Something like that. Did you win? He looked at Lena, eyes soft. Yeah, kid. I did. Later, after Noah fell asleep, Lena and Damien sat on the couch in the dim light. The storm had quieted, leaving the world smelling of rain and renewal. She traced the edge of the scar on his knuckles. What happens now? He leaned back, exhaling slowly. I don't know. I've got no business left, no enemies left, no home but this. She smiled. Sounds like a good start. He chuckled, the sound low and unfamiliar, laughter rediscovered. You sure you want a man with this many ghosts? She tilted her head. Maybe I like haunted houses. He laughed again, softer this time. Then I guess I'll stay. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the windows, real sunlight this time, golden and warm. Lena made breakfast while Damien sat at the piano with Noah on his lap, guiding his small fingers over the keys. The melody that filled the apartment was soft, hesitant, and beautiful. She watched them from the kitchen, smiling through tears she didn't bother to hide. Noah looked up at Damien. Are you happy now? Damien paused, his gaze drifting to Lena. He smiled, that quiet, genuine smile she'd waited to see again. Yeah, kid. For the first time in a long time. That night, after Noah went to bed, Lena and Damien stood by the window, watching the lights of the city reflect off the wet streets. Do you ever think about the past? She asked softly. Every day, he said. But now I think about the future more. She turned to him. What does it look like? He took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. Like this. He leaned down and kissed her, not desperate or broken this time, but slow, sure, and whole. Outside, the rain started again, gentle now, not threatening, like the world itself had exhaled. And inside, the feared man and the woman who once ran for her life stood together, no longer running from anything. They'd both found what they thought impossible: peace, love, and the courage to believe in second chances. 1 year later. A small bakery on the corner of 5th and Main buzzed with soft morning chatter. The smell of cinnamon and coffee drifted through the air. Behind the counter, Lena arranged pastries in the display case, her hair tied back, flour dusting her cheeks. A man in a dark jacket sat near the window, reading the paper, the headlines now about politics, not crime. His lips twitched as he glanced up at her. Miss, I think this croissant's too perfect, he teased. She smirked. That's because I made it. Noah's laughter rang from the back room as he helped a customer count change. Damien folded the paper, stood, and walked over to her. You know, he said, leaning in, I never thought I'd end up falling for a baker. And I never thought I'd end up falling for a man who used to terrify half the city, she replied, smiling. He kissed her forehead, whispering, Guess we both have good taste. She laughed, brushing flour from his shirt. Go pick up Noah from school, Mr. Voss. He grinned. Yes, ma'am. And as he walked out into the sunlight, Lena looked around her little bakery, her home their home, and felt the kind of peace that doesn't ask questions. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive gentle. Sometimes it crashes through your life like a storm, and leaves behind the calm you never knew you needed. Do you believe people who've lived through darkness can still build something beautiful together? Comment below. Can redemption and love truly coexist?
Thank you for staying with this story to the very end. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll never miss the next story of healing, hope, and unexpected love.